Welcome to Safety Chats, a podcast from Portside Safety and Compliance by Baldwin. Each episode brings real-world experience, practical insight, and honest conversations about safety in aviation and beyond. Let's get started with this week's Safety Chat.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Portside Safety by Baldwin Safety Chat. My name is Anne-Marie Salazzo, and I'm joined here with Todd Thomas and Ryan Smith. And today's topic is something that I'm coming right off of a conference, and it's right on the top of my head. I am actually doing this podcast from Provo, Utah. We just finished up the Bass Safety Summit over in Provo, Utah. And I just kind of wanted to touch base with everybody of the importance of going to these conferences and touching base with your colleagues and also some of the topics that come up as kind of high-hitting conversations in varying roundtables and discussions. The first one I want to touch base on, there was an interesting panel comprised of air traffic control, pilots, and a moderator, of course. And we were talking about the interactions between the two entities and the behind the scenes of what air traffic control does in an emergency versus what the pilots does. We got also into what kind of reporting goes out there, and especially on events such as TCAS RAs. Now, of course, in these types of conferences, you have data coming in and you have the analysis of that data. But what was interesting is that TCAS RA events and the reporting of those events was lower than what the data was showing. That means that after an analysis of flight data recordings and FOQA and anything that the people looking at it are going to get their hands on, it didn't match up with the actual reports they were getting from operators. So that's a problem. And that's something that I wanted to bring to everyone in the podcast. Personally, I have talked with many pilots, and some are like, of course, I'm going to report a TCAS RA. And others are like, well, it's always happening. Teterboro always has that happening. So it's part of the world. So but what's the point? They're not doing anything about it. Well, I hate to tell everybody, but yeah, Teterboro is getting looked at, and that's where this information is coming from. They looked at it. They looked at the numbers of how many reports versus how much data, and it wasn't matching up. So as a safety manager, I'm like, okay, of course, you're going to go into how can we make this better? How can we get our people to do more reporting of these? Well, of course, it's going to go back to training. And of course, it's going to go back to how easy it is to put in a report. And there's varying ways to put in a TCAS RA through your ASAP, SIAS. If you don't have any of those, you have an email to the NTSB. You have a lot more ways to report than you think, the ASRS, for example. And it's not getting done. When it doesn't get done, that means that they're not going to see anything to say, hey, we've got something going on over here. Because not everybody's going right to the data. The data is there to look at. Yeah, you got to look at it at a regular basis, but everybody's busy. So if you're not reporting to see a spike in reporting, they're not going to look at that. So yeah, Teterboro got caught as saying, hey, everybody's been complaining about it, and they looked into it. But again, the reporting didn't match what was being shown on the data. Okay, I've stemmed on that a little bit. So let's go right into the why. And that goes back to that reporting, training, leadership, and how sometimes the leadership needs to be shored up. And here's the second big thing that came out of this conference. And it wasn't just me talking about it. It was my colleagues talking about it. And it was up on the main stage. The accountable executive. Hey, accountable executives, if you're listening to this, I would love to see you at these conferences. It's not just for safety managers. It's for the accountable executive to come into our world, to see what's going on, to show the support for your safety managers and your directors and your teams. Because if you go and you see behind the curtains of what we're dealing with and what we're talking about and all those high-hitting items that we need support on, you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to be amazed at how much support we do need. And that comes from the top down. After that, the other department leaders and them getting on board with it. I'm a realist. I know that everybody's busy. I know that everybody doesn't have it all in their bandwidth to do all of this stuff. But there's enough conferences that are out there. There's enough safety roundtables that are out there. We just got to make sure that everybody's included in and everybody's going to them. Let's get a nice wide variety of people at these conferences to actually share that information and get that support because it is a ripple effect and it's important for everybody to be on the same page. So that's my takeaway from this conference. And I know that my colleagues have gone to other conferences as well. And thank you guys for letting me kind of ramble on about this as I sit here and sip my coffee in the early morning hours. I want to ask you guys to kind of chime in now and give your take on some of your conferences that you went to. And does what I'm kind of talking about match up with what you've heard?
Yeah, I've seen the same stuff, the conferences and symposiums that I've been through in the past, both in the military and on the civilian side. And, when we were talking about the accountable executive not being present at these things, a lot of the time, from what I've seen, is these accountable executives, these leaders, they obviously safety is important for an operation. Everybody knows that. But where I think the disconnect is a lot of the times your accountable executive, their responsibility ends at the safety policy and words. In other words, in the safety policy, it says they're engaged in safety and they're the head of safety. But from my experience, the majority of the time, there's always a disconnect between the AE and the safety department. And you're right. They absolutely should be going to every one of these conferences. And it's having that buy-in, right? And it goes back to what we've talked about in previous podcasts. We're getting that buy-in from your leadership, true buy-in, not just words on a safety policy, but true buy-in to believe in the process and help the process become better with their leadership. And what's your thoughts, Todd?
Yeah, a good point. And the conferences I've been to as well, Anne Marie, spot on. You are as well, Ryan. I think too, we have to consider the type of operations we've dealt with a lot here with our product. We see they are multitask, like most operations. So I can see a little bit that they, yes, in addition to being the accountable executive, they're in their other roles, which have oversight over the entire operation, not just safety. So I know that brings a challenge to them. But again, I was always big to talk with, and when I was in a role of a director of safety at a company, reminding people to hold us accountable, hold your leadership accountable. And I think a part of that and the buy-in would come from seeing them at some of these events, seeing that accountable executive, the top person, come there. And then you are walking your talk and you are leading by example. And I just would love to see more of that. And it's a good topic, Anne Marie, that you brought up this morning, because we're used to seeing typically the safety managers that we work with, right, from our side on our product. And because that's who we deal with, but we a lot of times aren't dealing with the accountable executive. And I know that in some of my experience, there's even confusion as to who that accountable executive is in an organization. So you have ways to determine that. If we go back to the regulations, look at 14 CFR Part 5, you're going to find out how you determine who that accountable executive is in your organization. So make sure that you have determined that, because believe it or not, I've dealt with companies that, again, I don't think there was clarity on that. The accountable executive, yes, critical for that top down, which the CFRs call for in your SMS, is the top down implementation of your SMS. And that would pay dividends to see more involvement at these conferences from those individuals.
Yeah, thanks so much for putting your 2 cents in, guys. I was just thinking, as you guys were talking, I was like, how would we keep pushing that message out there? And this is one way we blog about it as well. If you are an accountable executive and you are listening to this and you have never gone to one of these conferences, go to at least one in your accountable executive role. Just one, is that's all you're going to need to do to go and see what we're talking about. It's not every year. It's just once in your role. If you get in there, you'll see it. And then you're going to benefit so much and your team is going to benefit so much about it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree as well. Yeah, at least one, like you said, Anne Marie, one. Yeah, plan one. There's a lot of wonderful safety conferences out there that you could choose from. And again, I believe it would be a true eye opener for the accountable executive that has never been.
Yeah. And here's the other thing about if you are an accountable executive and you are not even close to knowing what aviation is about or the aviation side of SMS, this is a great way to learn more about that side. I'm fully aware that there are accountable executives that have absolutely nothing to do with the safety department unless they are literally having that conversation with their once a year. I get it. And oh yeah, that's another one of the hats I wear at the company. But not only are you going to get to know the industry a little bit better, you're going to get to know your safety manager a little bit better. And you go as a team building. And if you can afford it, bring your entire team. But again, realist going on here. I know that's not always possible for every organization, but at least if you have the two main leads there for your SMS, it would be a great learning experience. Also, accountable executives, if you have no idea what we're talking about with Part 5 and all of this RAs and all of this stuff, that's where you're going to really get that insight as to what are we needing from our teams. Those little bits and pieces that your other teammates might talk about and that you're just kind of like, I have no idea. You're going to be able to talk to the DOs and the mechanics that do come to these as well. So it's a lot of eye-opening that goes on at these conferences. Plus, you get to meet a whole lot of great people who are absolutely involved and encouraging other people to do SMS. So it's a ripple effect, everybody. Let's keep passing the word along. Takeaways from this conversation, short and sweet. Reporting. If you are having those TCAS RAs, please, pilots, submit them into the system, whether it's your company system or the national system. Get them into your SMS and the entire industry's SMS. Very important. The other takeaway is that our accountable executives and our leadership, you need to be a part of it and you need to know what the heck is going on. So come to these conferences. I want to see you there. And if you see any one of us there, you come up to us and you say, hey, we are here. And thanks for giving us the push. And before we close out, Ryan, Todd, do you have anything else before?
Yeah, no, Anne-Marie, great topic today and very timely that you being at the event and it's going, like I said, had you not been there, we may not have even had this conversation today, but that's the beauty of these events that we go to. You hear and it triggers something in your mind and then you know that it's important and it's something that we want to get out to our fellow safety people that listen to this podcast and hope that they'll pass it along. But do encourage, and we do hope to see accountable executives being more prevalent out there at these events in the future.
Yeah, great conversation, Anne-Marie. I think it was spot on. And like Todd had mentioned, the timeliness was perfect. And that's what we should be doing as safety managers anyways. When we see issues or we see things that we need to talk about, we need to be prompt with it. We don't want to wait on that information. We want to push the information out, be it to our listeners or to our customers. It needs to be timely. And I think you were spot on with this.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. All right. So we're going to be signing off. Again, I'm coming to you from the tail end of the BAS 2026 conference. It is the 71st annual Business Aviation Safety Summit. Everybody can look up varying conferences, go to NBAA website. There's a lot there that you can look into as well. A shameless plug for all of our organizations, Flight Safety, NATA, NBAA. Everybody go do some research, get out there, and hopefully we will see you at the next conference. So for Todd and Ryan, we are signing off our safety chats. Be safe, everybody, and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much and have a great day.
This podcast is brought to you by Portside Safety and Compliance by Baldwin, the leader in safety management for the transportation industry. Since 2004, Baldwin has been providing state-of-the-art solutions and 24/7 support to the aviation and transportation industries. Baldwin's clients include all sizes and types of transportation operators. Baldwin provides safety and related business services to commercial, charter medical transporters, FBOs, MROs, airports, flight schools, UAS operators, firefighters, OEMs, ground transport operators, and others. Visit baldwinsms.com to discover how Baldwin can enhance your organization's safety program.